Everyone. Welcome to another great week and day of the Hope Project. Being a Sunday, it's a welcome to a new week. And so the great thing about today is we're going to be at the letter P. And P is kind of a fun word for all ages, but I think we're going to choose a word that also relies on all of us to make it happen. And that is the word persist or persistence. I mean, that's really what we're doing by being able to be on the week we're on here in the Hope Project is you are persistent and you are pursuing whatever your goals and expectations are of the Hope Project. I mean, isn't that kind of the root of hope, is to being able to put hope and the belief of something greater to come into action is by being persistent and really persisting or pursuing something that might be a challenge or difficult, and in spite of all that, we're going to keep going. That's really what the root of persistence is. I think if you were to sit down for a few minutes and really think of all the things you've been persistent about or that you've been persistent with to get to this point of your life, you might give yourself more credit than you thought of how much you've had to conquer, endure, and continue through to get to be the awesomeness that you are, which you are if you question that. I know that you are, and I hope that you can look back on your journal and just see how pretty awesome you are yourself. So a couple of things that I want to talk about with persistence is really thinking of it as a hammer. That whenever we're using a hammer and we're trying to nail something down, it's not a one-time thing. You can't typically use a hammer that is heavy. It could hurt you. It might make you vulnerable. You might be like me and not be really well equipped in a hammer, and yet you use it anyway, and you are persistent on nailing something down. So you have a goal from point A to point B of that nail, and that's your goal. But you can't just do it once. It takes that repetition and that persistence, even though it's hard and it's heavy, and you might hurt your finger when you hit it on accident, or you might be off cue when you hit beside the nail instead of in your hand. But you persist and continue through it. You know, that's something that also helps us discover who we are and what we're called to do. This here I brought with me. This is a small stack of all the writing I have done. Since I was a little bitty kid, as soon as I could write, I wanted to write and I wanted to use words. And I can't tell you how many times I've thrown papers away or burned it thinking, this isn't going to get me where I want to be. And I think that was me giving up on that persistence and not being persistent enough to get to the point where I can use my writing for words, for my own treatment, for sending a book in to an editor and waiting for an reply, and being able to really use those skills in a way that's going to get us to what we desire and what our goals are is being persistent and not giving up, even in times of our own fears and limitations. So let's talk a little bit about this and how it might apply to you, because I definitely think it can apply to all of us in probably more ways than we realize. Because when we really think about the word persistence or persisting something, that is really a skill where we can accept failure as a part of the path. Sometimes our failure and our restrictions are what guide us to our greatness. And that's really important to remember, that we are not meant to go from A to B or A to Z without the letters in between, without the curves and the creation to make us better of who we are. That's a great thing. We learn from failures instead of engulf our life in them. Persistence is in spite of difficulty or opposition or something of that sort. And if you look at the definition, that's really what it stands for. So I also want to remind you that being persistent doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it means it's going to be worth it. Persistence requires practice. It requires some time, so it's not a quick result. And it really requires motivation, learning what you love and what's that inner part of you that you could have written on your journals. The idea that we have entails practice. Practicing becomes habits. Habits impact our behavior, and that's what gets us to that persistence. It's the whole behavior of persistence that changes the behavior, the actions, and the results. So 28 plus days of being persistent is going to be what develops the habit. So if you want to get rid of some of your habits, then you have to be persistent with that too. Persistence also creates change, but it also creates opportunity. So being able to do persistence in spite of difficulty, remember. And Debbie Osborne, I would recommend that you talk to her. Osborne, she is an attorney, but she is also a master social worker, and she's a wonderful lady. She's a wonderful speaker. Check out her page. But one of the things she talks about with persistence that I think of totally relates is she talks about her message of Plan B. Being a foster parent, she says that she's really not Plan A. She's Plan B in a child's life. But what perseveres her, yeah, another P word, that gets her through that Plan B of being successful and doing the right thing for those she loves, is that persistent passion to help people, to help kids, and know that she wants to pursue things that are right for those children, which ideally is in their biological homebound family, but she's going to be persistent and provide through her Plan B option as a foster family. Some great information that really talks about how much persistence can get you to helping others and also helping yourself. So for the journal action today, I really want you to reflect on something you've accomplished because of persistence. So something that if you hadn't been persistent, if you hadn't pulled through in spite of that difficulty, you wouldn't be where you are. And then journal about a growth you've had in more recent time. I want you to journal about the last year, and then the last 6 months, and then even in the last month, or maybe since the beginning of this Hope Project. Challenge yourself, and this can be a challenge. Find something for each of those. Maybe even you have to ask somebody else to really reflect on your power of perseverance and to get to where you are. And then here's what I want you to do that's kind of fun and different this week. And for this day, is I want you to go back over your previous days and reflect on one goal or one thing you've identified that you want to be persistent on and you want to pursue a little bit more, that you wrote down that week or you thought of that week and maybe didn't write down, that you think, oh, I need to write that down. I want to pursue this and I want it to become a better part of who I am to equip me to do the awesome things I'm meant to do. So choose one, write it down, and see how you can persist with it this week. Because you can, and you're worth it, and everything that you persist with, you are called to do, and you are meant to do, and you are equipped to do. And therefore, we want to, and I want to engage you in a way to do it, because it's going to be pretty darn awesome. So say you haven't written a journal or you haven't been up on this and you're just starting this week, that's fine. Find something that you want to do or you've been thinking about doing for a long time, and then make that as your goal. Put your goals into a plan so you can become the action, and that is persistence. So I'm going to be persistent in encouraging you to do that. Can't wait to hear great things. Continue to let me know how things are going, and I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day.